But we got to turn our conversation, Perloff, to one of the best games we saw over the weekend if you are not a Chargers fan. What Jacksonville did in overcoming one of the biggest deficits, one of the biggest comebacks in NFL playoff history. Well, a man who is the chief football strategy officer for the Jags, also the CEO, GM, and head of creative for AEW. He's also the GM and sporting director for Fulham FC. A very, very busy man, a very talented man. Tony Khan joining us now. Tony, thanks so much for the time. How you been?
I've been very well, Mag. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, appreciate it. Now, okay, tell us honestly, we'll get to AEW in a moment. What were you thinking in the first half of that Jags game, and then what were you thinking in the second half?
You know, I didn't stop believing at any point. The team keeps coming back, and I know you're both really big football fans, and you've seen it firsthand, whether it was the prior week against the Titans or against the Cowboys, the Ravens. Time after time, the Jags have come back, and it's 5 straight big comeback wins at home. We've had comebacks of 17 points, 10 points, 17, 9, and now 27 in our last 5 home games, and we've won them all. So it's pretty incredible, and I never stopped believing in this team, and they never stopped believing in each other, and they never stopped believing in Doug Peterson, who's such a great coach and has really changed this organization in so many ways for the positive.
Yeah, Tony, I'm a Eagles fan, a Philadelphia native, so I agree with that. I got to tell you, Maggie, coming into the season, said Trevor Lawrence was going to be the NFL's breakout star, and I think she was right. But I still am not sure that we all quite understand how special Trevor Lawrence is. What do you think of your young quarterback?
He's such a special, incredible talent. And I think it's been obvious to big football fans for many years. I mean, there's a reason Trevor was the top recruit coming out of high school into college at Clemson, why he was the top college quarterback at Clemson, why he was the number 1 pick in the draft. He's been a winner time after time, but he's also, when you get to know him, just such a great person. And I think he's the kind of person a team wants to win for, a team rallies behind. He's a great leader. He has all the football talent in the world, all the arm talent. He works so hard, putting game plan together, studying the film, and really he's a complete quarterback. So Trevor Lawrence is the dream for Jacksonville, and I know for my dad as the owner of the organization and for all of us working in the football departments, scouting, research, Trevor Lawrence coming to Jacksonville was a dream.
Also, you got to love that he celebrates the win at Waffle House. I mean, that's a guy right after our own hearts. Tony Khan is our guest. AEW Dynamite Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on TBS, and AEW Rampage Fridays at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on TNT. Now with a brand new look, and we'll get to that in a moment. You got a lot of exciting things going on with AEW. But you mentioned about Doug Peterson sort of changing the culture. Can you sort of underscore that or take us inside that? Because you guys went from, obviously, the Urban Meyer situation did not work out. Now you rebound with Doug Peterson. Just how different has it been?
I mean, Doug came in, and the positivity he instilled in the team from the beginning, that is a huge part of it. But Doug's also such a great football coach, such a great play caller on offense, and just a complete football mind. And also the things Doug believes in terms of philosophy and game management, that's what I believe in and what I've worked on for 10 years. This is my 11th season working in the NFL on statistics, analytics, and obviously that's become a bigger part of the game. And you saw firsthand in this football game, and with Doug throughout his career, he's a big believer in football analytics, and whether it was in Philly or this season in Jacksonville and in this playoff game, you saw it. Doug is going to be aggressive on 4th downs. Doug is aggressive on 2-point conversions, and those are things that make sense to do because all the research is in favor of doing that stuff, and Doug does it, and he does it well. When it comes down to having 2-point plays and great 4th down calls, you can count on Doug to be aggressive and have a great play in mind.
Tony, over that decade that you've been looking at football analytics, has there been a lot of growth for the entire league? I know Doug Peterson, obviously aggressive on 4th down. It feels like everybody is, but not quite everyone is there. Where is it stand now compared to where it was a decade ago?
Oh, it's so much more aggressive across the league. It's absolutely the case. You're totally right. And teams are utilizing analytics much more than they were when I first came in the league in 2012. There are a lot more teams that have a statistical analyst in the booth during the game to talk about fourth down situations, clock management, or two-point conversion situations.
We're talking with Tony Khan. He's, of course, the Jaguars' chief football strategy officer. He's the CEO, GM, and head of creative for AEW. He's the GM and sporting director for Fulham FC. You wear a lot of hats, Tony, and I know that, you know, statistics and analytics in football has been like a darling of yours. Do you get personally a sense of gratification when you see Doug Peterson going for 2 in a spot where we knew what it was doing? It was trying to set up for the win instead of the tie. Are you personally satisfied that you feel like you've contributed to how the league has changed?
In some ways, yes. I think Doug also believes in all that himself, and Doug came here with a great team. Like, we had an analytics group. I work with great people, Zach Beislein, and a number of people on statistical research, and I also own a company, True Media, that is the top sports engineering firm in the world. 25 out of the 30 Major League Baseball clubs work with us, and we work with most of the major media providers and the NFL on the next-gen stats. And Doug, when he was in Philadelphia, had a great group, and he brought Ryan Pagnetti, who's a top statistical analyst, with him, and we all work together now. And, I mean, Doug's the leader, and Doug is the person who makes these calls. And, you know, he is somebody who really does believe in it. And so it does make me very happy, but it's also just great to work with him. And that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to have a chance to work with Doug Peterson, because when you watch Doug in Philadelphia, he was making those aggressive moves. And that's what he does in Jacksonville, and it's been great for us. And, you know, as we built up the roster in the past couple of years, I think the talent has really gotten better at the Jaguars over the last few years, and really Doug coming in, it was at the perfect time.
So when do you fly to Kansas City? Do you fly day of the game, or do you not want to leave it up to chance like that? Do you fly in the night before? What's your strategy?
I always go in the night before, but, you know, sometimes I've had to travel in the day of. We do AEW. Of course, we have AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite, and now we have AEW Friday Night Rampage. So tomorrow night, the show's on TBS. It's going to be a great, great show. And we also have shows Friday on TNT. And we did the show in Portland a couple weeks ago. And by the time I got done with the show in Portland, it was too late to really make it back to Jacksonville. So I did have to go back for that big game a couple weeks ago against the Titans. I actually was flying back after you know, the Portland show. I did fly back the day of. I don't like to usually leave it to chance like that. But usually with AEW, I usually try to get in on Tuesday night ahead of the Wednesday show, and then try to get in the night before the Jags game, which for us is Saturday. And obviously Trevor has done really well on Saturday. So that's
Hey, I think you found the secret sauce there. I like it. Tony Khan is our guest. Tony, you know that I'm a big wrestling fan, and AEW, all the amazing changes that you are implementing for 2023, super exciting. The talk of the wrestling world beyond AEW, though, is the fact that WWE is for sale. Is there a world where Tony Khan and AEW buys WWE?
I am interested in the news that there's potentially a sale process, and certainly I think we've shown that when there's acquisitions, transactions, we are capable of making the big purchases, whether my dad stepped up with the Jaguars or Fulham FC in the Premier League, and he's done such a great job building up the club and putting resources into it. And now we're playing football at a very high level in the Premier League. And I think with AEW, we've shown we can build a company. And even when I purchased Ring of Honor, frankly, if you're a Ring of Honor fan, now that's a very different thing than WWE, but Ring of Honor is a company with 20 years of history. And I really have enjoyed running it. And I think we've shown that we're at all-time highs in terms of every business metric since we relaunched it, and it's only going to get better. And, you know, AEW is my main focus, but certainly when that news is out there, I think it's very interesting. So, you know, stay tuned to AEW Dynamite, stay tuned to AEW Rampage. You never know when I may address something, but on the other hand, I think, you know, it's very preliminary to talk about that process. But if there is a process there, which it sounds like there may be, then I'm interested in being a part of it, certainly.
Very, very interesting. Appreciate that answer for sure. You and I have talked a few times, Tony. I've never asked you, do you have a relationship with Vince McMahon at all? Do you guys, I know you've read a lot about him and did a lot of research about him before you bought AEW, but do you guys have a personal relationship?
No, I don't have any relationship with him. I've talked to Stephanie and had good conversations in the past with Stephanie, but no, I don't know Vince McMahon at all.
What did you think of Stephanie stepping away, kind of for the second time, but this one looks a little bit more permanent?
I can't speak to it. I haven't talked to her in a long time, and I can't speak to what's happening there, but certainly very focused on AEW, and it's a big night for us tomorrow night. We're coming off such a great show at the LA Forum last week, and I'm looking forward to announcing more about when we make our return to New York, but certainly the wrestling fans have come to expect great things every Wednesday night on TBS from us, and tomorrow I know we'll have a lot of great things in store for them.
Tony, Maggie and I have talked a little bit about developing me as a wrestling heel, a bad guy, as an obnoxious sort of the professor type. Problem is I'm 6'4", 198. I feel like
gotta fill out a little.
I feel like your rising star MJF is stealing a little bit of my act, though. Can you talk about him, because I'm pretty into him. He seems pretty cool.
He's a great talent. He's a challenging personality, to say the least. He's very focused on being the best. He's very, very selfish. He's very self-centered, and he is very talented, and he knows it. And, there's a reason he's at the top of the profession. He's a very talented wrestler, but he's also very entertaining on the microphone, certainly gets a lot of mainstream attention at times for the things he says. But, yeah, he's really one of wrestling's great villains, I think. And what's frightening is how young he is and how much potential he has and room to grow. And now he's the world champion. But I think he's only getting better and better, and he's already at the top of the profession. So it's really amazing. And, hopefully, I think this year, 2023, will be the year of a lot of these homegrown AEW stars. Right now, you have MJF, the world champion, Darby Allin, the TNT champion, the Acclaimed, the World Tag Team champions, all homegrown stars. And Jamie Hayter, the women's world champion, Jade Cargill, the TBS champion. So up and down the card, you see homegrown stars, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, who were here at the beginning of AEW, the Trios champions, Orange Cassidy, the All-Atlantic champion. So everybody right now is somebody in the championship picture is somebody who came into AEW at the very beginning or established, launched their career here. But what's also amazing is all the people we brought into AEW now, and these big free agent stars, people who came in at the beginning like Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley, but had already built a reputation worldwide, or people that had that reputation and joined us along the way, like Bryan Danielson, the Hardys, Adam Cole, and Sting, and many others. But this year, so far, we're off to a hot start.
Wait, Tony, sorry, can I interrupt you just for a second? Because you mentioned the established stars, but selfishly, I got to ask, because one of my favorites of all time is CM Punk. When is he coming back?
Well, it's a great question, and I haven't been able to talk about CM Punk recently, and I appreciate you asking. But I definitely think everything he's done in AEW has been great. He's been out injured, but he's been one of the great stars in AEW. But I can't really comment on it.
Okay. Tony, we know you're so busy. This is so great. Thank you for spending time with us, of course. CEO, GM, and head of creative for AEW, Jaguars Chief Football Strategy Officer, Fulham FC GM Sporting Director. We should mention again, AEW Dynamite, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on TBS, and AEW Rampage, Fridays at 10 p.m. Eastern Pacific on TNT. And now with the brand new look, we're so excited for everything you have planned for AEW in 2023. And best of luck in Kansas City with your Jags, Tony.
I really appreciate that, Mag, and see you tomorrow on TBS for AEW Dynamite. Hopefully you'll get a chance to watch the show, and thanks for wishing the Jags good luck. Thank you for having me on again, as always. It's always nice to be with you both.
Oh, appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.